Let's continue our conversation on Stoicism, going over the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, Book 12, Section 27. I'm likely to butcher a couple of names here. Continually review in your mind those whom a particular anger took to extremes, those who reached the greatest heights of glory or disaster or enmity or any other such sort of fortune. Then stop and think, where is it all now? Smoke and ashes, a story told, or even a story forgotten. At the same time, this whole class of examples should occur to you. Fabius Catilinus in his country house, Lucius Lupus in his town gardens, Stertinius at Baiae, Tiberius in Capri, Velleius Rufus, and generally any obsession combined with self-conceit. Think how worthless all this striving is, how much wiser to use the material given you to make yourself in all simplicity just, self-controlled, obedient to the gods. The pride that prides itself on freedom from pride is the hardest of all to bear. It's a nice statement. So, fame is a fleeting thing, and fame is a difficult thing, but it's not just the act of fame. These days we have people who are famous for accomplishing nothing. They're just famous because they're famous, and that, I suppose, to a degree has always been the case, that there are certain people who are just famous because they're rich or anything along those lines. But think about anyone who is known for anything excessive in good or bad terms, typically bad terms. Think about the celebrities who have fallen from grace because they have done things they should not have done. Think about how our opinions of certain people have changed, because we now know things about things they have done that we did not know before. Fame is a strange thing. And it's a complicated thing because it can really affect how we behave. It's difficult. There is a certain pressure. There's a certain pressure to behave in a certain way when you are a famous person, but at the end of the day, that fame won't last. It won't last. I have a YouTube channel with a number of subscribers, but I have no doubt that if for some reason something were to happen to me and all of a sudden I would disappear from the stage, the channel will be forgotten in probably a year, because nothing new is added to it. And this is not false modesty. I genuinely believe that, because in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important. And I think when we deal with complicated situations that make us angry or sad or upset or whatever, we can think about those people who have lost it, who have been in the news for losing it, usually celebrities, right? Who get angry. I think a beautiful depiction of this is in the movie Chef with Jon Favreau, which I can highly recommend if you've not seen it. I found it particularly relevant because to a large degree it shows the effects that a review can have on people, and for obvious reasons that topic is of interest to me. And there is a scene, basically in a nutshell, let's do the same things, right? Basically in a nutshell, these are useless words. Anyway, in brief, the plot is that Jon Favreau plays a chef, and he gets a bad review. His food gets a bad review, and he invites the reviewer again to cook him a better meal, but the restaurateur he works for doesn't allow him to cook what he wants to cook for the reviewer. And there's a very interesting scene that I could understand very well, where the reviewer is in the restaurant and is tweeting things about how the food is still not good, still bad, etc. And the chef comes in and has had a couple drinks and gets very angry and is shouting at this reviewer and is pretty much hysterical. Beautiful performance by Jon Favreau, by the way. And of course, it's a restaurant, so there's all kinds of people with their phones who are taking videos. It ends up on YouTube, it's tweeted, it's all these things. And his career ends at that moment. That restaurant career ends. And I think what you see there is how careful you must be when you are in the public eye. That's part one. Now, having said that, I just want to make sure. There's been a lot of news items recently of celebrities who've definitely done things they should not have done, whether they were in the public eye or not. Let me just emphasize that to make sure we're absolutely clear on that. But having said that, I think this can be a powerful motivator for us. When you think of the famous people, what they have accomplished, what they have done, but also where they ended. Let's think of, I'll try to be neutral here, although they don't really deserve it, but think of the people in the Hollywood atmosphere who have abused people just for their own, to further their own interests and nothing else. Unacceptable behavior. But the people who did that were very rich, were very famous. The abusers, very rich and very famous. What has that fame given them, and how will they be remembered? Certain people used to be household names in that atmosphere and are now household names as being the worst examples of human behavior, right? So not only did that fame come at a price, but worse than that, they have very negatively affected the lives of many. So I think what I'm trying to say is, think of those examples. Think of where that has led those people. They thought they would get away with it, and then they didn't. Nor should they. But think of what that has given them. In the long run, very, very little. And then remember how terrible that is. Well, it's terrible. Now, many of us, we're not famous. We're not movie producers. We're none of these things. But even so, think of even the greats. And now let's just talk about something nicer. Sorry, those people who are very famous, who tend to be really nice people. That's great. But one day they too will die. Many of them have already died. How quickly are they forgotten? Right? And I think it's a very important thing to always bear in mind. Everything is temporary. Nothing lasts forever. And that's just the way it is. And that's okay. Things are meant to pass. That was it. This turned into a somewhat heavier topic than I initially anticipated, but it did anyway. And I like to stay on track, but I also like to kind of follow my trains of thoughts in these videos, hoping that it is not boring, incomprehensible, or useless. I hope this was interesting, at least. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you feel about this sort of ephemeral nature of things. because I always find that a very interesting concept. I hope this was useful. I'll gladly see you again next week for more talk about Stoicism. Bye.